here at the award-winning American Top Team Training Center in South Florida, Coconut Creek, and two of its young MMA fighters, DaSilveira, Sal Guerriero. I hope I said that right.
Yeah, it's good enough.
Hey, you guys have known each other for quite some time. It's so cool, the history with you guys. Now, growing up competing in wrestling tournaments in Florida, they continued to succeed in the high school ranks on rival high schools. Josh for Cardinal Gibbons, 2011 high school grad, and Sal for St. Thomas Aquinas, 2014 graduate. Thank you both. Let's start right there. Sal, what made you decide St. Thomas Aquinas High School?
So I grew up training in jiu-jitsu, and when I was about in 6th grade, and I have family ties into American Top Team, so I've been part of American Top Team since I was young, and I was doing a jiu-jitsu class, and I met somebody named Jason Kelly, who told me about Dr. Funk Wrestling, which was the club practice, the club team for St. Thomas. So I right away went over there, wrestled there from like 6th, 7th, 8th grade. So it was only like a natural fit that I went to St. Thomas for wrestling when I went in high school. So.
What do you remember most of your days with the band of brothers with the Raiders?
Man, I turned into a man in that wrestling room, to be honest. You know, like at first it was like competing to me was fun as a kid, and I, you know, it's like cool going to tournaments and whatnot. But you know, in the wrestling room, it's like you go through a whole transformation. You like know what it is to be a man. You become a man. It's pretty crazy, you know. Not only me, but like I've seen teammates and close friends of mine who like you just see the transformation. There's like nothing like wrestling to like that really like turns you into a man. You know?
So Josh, you had an interesting journey to get to Cardinal Gibbons High School.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about where you went to high school and then getting to Cardinal Gibbons High School.
So I lived out in Naples, Florida at the time with my mother. I went to Barron Collier High, and I met two fellas out there named Joe Biasucci and Jeff Mustari, and they're the ones who kind of showed me wrestling. Joe Biasucci kind of showed me national wrestling. Hey, let's go travel, let's go beat some other guys up from different states. And then there were some changes during the Barron Collier with the AD and stuff. I don't really remember so much, and I was just a kid then. And Joe ended up leaving the school, and my dad lived in Deerfield at the time, and the opportunity to wrestle at Cardinal Gibbons, you know, happened. It was a private school, better education, and just when I went to go visit the campus, it looked like everything seemed like it was meant to happen, meant to be, and they offered my younger brother to come with me, and that's how the journey to Cardinal Gibbons became. You know, I met Pettineo, and it wasn't just me. I think it was like there was like a good 9 of us or something like that. I'm not sure, you know, but at the end
that
of the
was
day,
a stud team. Both you guys had stud teams, though.
It was a good team. It was a good team, you know. And when to be honest, I look back at it now, and it was probably one of the key things in my life that put me in a different next level phase, the direction I want to go to, you know. And yeah, that was the beginning. That was the beginning how I got into Gibbons.
You mentioned Coach Joe. I think they won a state title this year in high school wrestling. Yeah, they did actually. Somerset and Coach Joe won a state championship this year.
Yeah.
It was amazing. South Dade, of course, because they always win.
Oh, yeah.
Still to this day, South Dade. But actually, Somerset won a state title this year.
That was our only loss to actually our senior year to any team from Florida. We lost to South Dade actually. We had such a powerhouse, but South Dade always came and showed out, man.
South Dade was always strong back then. I want to say Brandon High School was also very strong back then. South Dade still is. It's really amazing the wrestling history and lineage, and you both were part of it. What was it like being friends and being on rival high schools?
Well, to be honest, both my dad and my uncle are original black belts under Josh's dad, Conan. So yeah, like the fighting lineage runs real deep. You know, it's pretty crazy. I mean, rival high school is whatever. At the end of the day, it's just us, like, you know, pursuing our dreams and whatnot. So, and I know Josh is the same way, but I can speak for myself. Where like I always knew that fighting was like gonna be the next step in the evolution of competing for me. You know, so Yeah, I don't know. That answers your question. Yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, I always knew there was that rivalry. It was kind of between more the coaches. The coaches, for some reason, they just had some weird rivalry. But, you know, I would see Sal and Jordan was another guy who grew up in American Top Team, Jordan Spieler. We would see each other all the time, and we would laugh about it, like, man, what's going on, you know? But we knew that we had to get what we had to do, you know, what we had to get done to win our tournaments. We didn't try to get too involved. At least, I think Sal felt the same way. We're not going to get too involved with the rivalry. It was cool, you know, that's what high school rivalry is all about. But I think we had deeper roots, like he said, way before, you know, Sal and I known each other before we were double digits, you know. So it's kind of, it's something that's way before that, you know.
Basically, let's go over the rivalry, because you guys knew each other for so long. Yeah, you're on rival schools, both great programs. It's like, hey, yeah, I want to win, you want to win, our teams want to win, but at the end of the day, we shake hands and hey.
Sal's uncle and his dad are basically like I could call them my uncles too, you know. I think they probably could have known me longer than some of their family members, you know.
So now I'm switching gears. Sometimes this happens and I take a left turn or a right turn as we're doing the interview. So who's like really good at fighting from the older generation with you guys? I know your dad. I know of your uncle, but I don't know any of his fighting background. Uncle Richie, and I didn't know your dad. I didn't know anything about him. Your dad, Conan, obviously, here and all. How good of fighters were all three of them? Josh?
So my dad was during the time when MMA was still being processed, you know. I mean, if you go look at some of my dad's fights, it was like 1 round, 20 minutes, bare knuckle fight. It was you know, there was no rules. Guys hitting in the groin, people hanging on cages and stuff. So it was a different time. Back then, jiu-jitsu was obviously superior to a lot of other styles. So I mean, I joke about it with my dad. You know, I was like, yo, MMA is like everyone knows how to play the drums, which is everyone knows how to do multiple things at the same time, you know. You know, my dad was obviously a dominant fighter back in the day, and his dad was one of the few American guys that would come in a gym full of Brazilians and compete with. He's seriously the only Italian American dude to come in, and he didn't care about it. He just competed, you know. So back in the day, it was pure toughness, grindness, and there was no really money involved, man. You were doing it right off just off your heart, you know. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. And like, it was really hard. Like, you really didn't know about jiu-jitsu back then, you know. And like my dad knew about it because of you know, seeing like how well Hoist did in the early UFCs, and he actually, my dad actually went to Josh's dad Conan's gym because he watched one of Conan's fights where like after he said it, Conan had said that his gym was.
It's the one out in Road or something, South Beach.
So my dad literally was like, okay, let me go on like a wild goose chase to try to find a gym. Yeah. And there it was, like a little gym in the corner, and like the rest is history. You know?
Yeah, in the 90s, man, it was like you could only find maybe like a place or two where you could find real martial arts jiu-jitsu, you know. And this was jiu-jitsu that came from Carson Gracie, so it was like a strong lineage, and you know. And luckily, my dad had a gym in South Beach, so that's where you have like then from there you have like the Jeff Munsons and the Vitor Belforts and the Ralph Gracies, and you have all these old school guys. They're coaches now, but they all started somewhere, you know.
It's an amazing history. Yeah. How about for Uncle Richie?
Yeah, well, so him and my dad got into it about the same time. I think my dad told him, and then he jumped in, and then like they would train under Conan. You know, for a long time until they got their black belts under him, and then you know, my dad got my brother and I involved into it really young. So yeah, I'm real happy, man, because if it wasn't for that, you know, who knows? I'd probably be you know, maybe playing baseball or soccer or something. Nothing against that, but
there's old videos. I'm pretty sure there's old videos when my dad, he wins his fight, and you see Richie jump in, and I think your dad jumps in, and Luis, they all jump in. They're all holding my dad. I mean, it was like
your dad's a big guy like you, Josh.
Yeah, they're all holding in the air.
You needed 3 of to get in there.
They're all screaming and stuff, and it reminded me of one of those old what's that old martial arts movie with the white guy Van Damme?
Van Damme?
You know when
Bloodsport?
when the karate guy comes out and there's like the Muay Thai guy and everyone's different styles. That's how it was, man.
Bloodsport, yeah.
That's how it was, and people be yelling. There was no corner. You would see guys running around the ring. There was no blue, red corner. We were lost, man. We were lost a little bit. It was good times.
Yeah, when you guys first see that too, what are your thoughts? Just like you're watching it, and is it like, wow, man, this is really cool. This is badass. This is very cool too. What are your thoughts when you're first taking some? Because it's not baseball, it's not soccer, it's not even football. It's so different. What are your thoughts, Sal?
What's your thoughts?
I remember being like a really young kid being brought to the AFCs, the AFCs were like it was a fighting organization that Dan Lambert, the owner of ATT, actually ran, and it was down here. It ended up being like a huge promotion. Some of the best guys in the world, like real household names, fought for that. Masvidal, ton of guys. But anyway, my dad was training with some of the guys that would fight in the show, so I would be there as a young kid watching fights, and yeah, I mean it's awesome. It's like kind of like once in a lifetime. I'm glad I lived this life, you know. Cause
What was that like? You said it was AFCs?
yeah, AFC.
And when they held their fights, was it just they had to find wherever they could to try to get these? Was it in a location, or was it just, I don't know, how was it back then?
Dan threw it so the fighters could get a lot of fights too, right?
Yeah, but it turned out to be like
a bigger show than what it was.
It was always at the War Memorial in Fort Lauderdale. Always.
Yeah, Dan was always trying to look out. Dan Lambert's a guy, he looks out for when you ask, what do you want, Dan? He wants belts. He wants to win championships, you know. He's looking out for every fighter's best interest, so he'll throw a show of his own and put 10 ATT guys in there to go against the rest, you know, just so they could get a good, better record, you know. And it's amazing how the support behind that, you know, that he'll throw his own show just so guys could get fights. You know?
It's amazing too how that morphed into what we see today. We're here at American Top Team, this beautiful facility that is built with all these great trainers, all these great fighters.
Oh, for sure.
It's just amazing to see the growth of it all.
It's all a product of his generosity too, you know. Cause it's not like it's not like he's in this to be making money.
Yeah, those are special types of humans, man.
Yeah.
You don't see Dan a lot.
Yeah.
No.
That's the thing, you know what I mean? And you don't see him, like he's not always out there in front of the camera and doing things like that. And that says a lot too.
Yeah,
he's a behind the scenes guy, just wants to make sure everybody's doing well.
It's real, you know?
And the best part about him when he is in here, I feel like, in my opinion, this is his favorite place in the whole wide world, to be in here with us. He just absolutely loves it, man. He's not just a guy who's in for the biz. He's one of us, man. He did jiu-jitsu. He's been a part of it, you know. He's been part of even pro wrestling, man. He's loved all that stuff, man. He's great. There's not many people like him, man. He's a blessing to us, bro, for sure.
Josh, I'm glad you mentioned the pro wrestling because I was going to bring that up. You said this is his favorite place. The second favorite place right now is Major League Wrestling, MLW. Him and King Mo doing their thing there. And I'm wondering, has Dan tried to recruit Josh and Sal to be part of MLW, the pro wrestling scene?
Not yet.
But sometimes I'll ask him about certain pro wrestlers. You know, he's real big into it. I'm not real big into the pro wrestling scene, but
I don't have to help me with the smack talking a little bit. He's really good with that stuff.
He is really good. I've seen him.
He's gonna help me a little bit. Then maybe I'll go do a match or two. You know.
Him and Tom Lawler, Filthy Tom Lawler, did this thing because the UFC has Fight Island. They did their own Filthy Island. It was Tom Lawler's Filthy Island where they had a makeshift wrestling ring in the backyard, and Dan was doing commentary on it. It was great.
He loves it, man.
He's with the pro wrestling MLW. Okay, so guys, did either one of you ever think of going to the other school? Meaning, Sal, you went to St. Thomas, and I heard your history. Did you ever think of going to Gibbons? And then I'll just ask you, Josh, did you ever have an opportunity to go to St. Thomas?
Yeah, that's a good question.
No, never. Nothing against Gibbons, you know. Like at the time they had a coach, J.P. Reese, who I'm real close with to this day, you know. So it was nothing. It was nothing like, you know, negative.
No animosities, no negativity.
No, it's just loyalty is real big, and I was part of St. Thomas since day one, and I was going to finish at St. Thomas, you know. So
For me, I'm pretty good with loyalty too. Even though I went to Gibbons for 1 year, but I did meet a group of kids, you know, that we were all kind of on the same mission. So I fell in love with more of the team, the unit, because these private schools sometimes these kids grow up since elementary school, you know. So I'm just a senior going in there. These kids known each other for 9, 10 years. I made great friends, but I fell in love with the team, you know, and I gave an opportunity for my brother too to follow me and stuff. But if I had a chance to go to St. Thomas, if they would have contacted me, or if Joe would have led me over there or suggested me there, you know, I probably would have gone there too. You know, Jordan Spieler was there. I already had a friend. I've never been to a private school, you know, so my whole interpretation of it was totally different until I got there. But Gibbons is an awesome school, man. They did plenty for me, you know, and they showed me different ways of life and the way they see things, and I got to meet different kids, you know. It's the people, right? When you go somewhere, it's always the people that you cherish the most. So.
It is when you're growing up to that level, and then now as well, and all. And
I think it's cool. St. Thomas, Gibbons, we have something to talk about or argue about later on. Back in the day, you know, maybe we'll be one of those angry dads in the stands. You know, those dads yelling at the kids all the time, man. Poor kids. Yeah, you know. Hopefully I'm not like that, you know, but it gets intense out there.
It does, man. Giant baseball playoffs are going on now, and yeah, I've seen that too.
Yeah.
Even today, it still goes on.
There's nothing like an angry wrestling dad, man. Oh man.
And you know what too about the programs? Different in a sense too, on how St. Thomas ran its program and how Coach Frank Pettineo and Gibbons ran his program. It was, both were very successful, but both very different in how they did it. And I just wanted both of you to touch on Sal and St. Thomas and just how they did their thing. And Josh, Gibbons, 1 year, but still, Coach Frank, he was like Mr. Gibbons spokesperson. If you saw a commercial, Frank could be in the commercial for that. But Sal, go ahead with St. Thomas.
Well, I mean,
the Wimberleys and just everybody there.
Well, the good thing about St. Thomas was that we had so many. It was actually joked about in Broward County, because we had so many coaches that would come to tournaments and coaches part of the team, and which was good because we were constantly wrestling. I was so lucky when I was in high school. I wrestled with Guy Gibson, who was a 3-time state champ, one of the best wrestlers in Florida. Jeff Wimberley. So. Not to mention all my teammates, but from a coach's perspective, I was real lucky. And Rob Wimberley ran. He was it was a lot of discipline. We were tough, you know. The team was real tough. No matter who you were tough. You were conditioned and tough, you know. So and that always stuck with me even to now. It's those are things that he instilled into us, and I kind of go about my life like that, you know.
And Josh, with Coach Frank, and it wasn't just Coach Frank. I know there were others there that were coaching too. If you could talk about that.
For sure. And Rob was he's the little coach, right, from St. Yeah. Speaking about Rob, just on that note, every time when we go on tournaments, that guy intimidated me the most. His teeth, the way he looked, he was just like, who the heck is this guy?
Yeah.
You know. But man, he held that team on his back. Mad respect to that guy, you know.
But as a reporter, I was intimidated.
Yeah, man, he was good.
I hope they do well. I don't care who wins, but I hope they do well.
You know, if I ever did go to St. Thomas, I know I would have been taken care of with that guy, because he brought a lot of toughness into that. But on the Gibbons side, man, like Pettineo, like you said, good business guy, right? What I've learned with the Pettineo and Biasucci, what they have in common, they're hate it or love guys. You love them or you hate them. But the reason why you hate them is because they defend what they have. They're on your team for so much, you know. Pettineo rode with us. There was times where I'm like, man, this guy, he's going all the way. He's sticking to the plan, you know. And you got to respect a guy like that, you know. And he wants to win bad, you know. So on that aspect, that grew on me, you know. I was like, man, this is a guy who's basically fighting for a bunch of 17-year-olds. It's kind of crazy if you think about it like that, you know. But then you had JP, man. JP, honestly, is one of the sweetest guys. I don't mean to sound like that, JP, but he's honestly one of the sweetest guys there, right? He's such a good guy, you know, technically amazing, you know. And then we had Ralph Cater, who would come in the room. Ralph Cater would come in the room every, on the volunteer wrestling days, yeah. and that was the toughness guy.
Cater's a tough dude. Yeah.
Cater's the tough guy. When Cater came in, I said, all right, there we go. Now we have a little combination of everything. And he would come in and voluntarily wrestle, you know, and then we would have guys like the first 189 champ, Sam Dorville. Is it Sam Dorville?
And he played football. I remember Sam.
He'd come in, he would wrestle too with us. We had, I'm not sure if we had like the coaches that would go to tournaments, but we'd have guys coming in all the time in Gibbons, you know. And the Timmy Ironman and his father, the Ironman dad and his son, they would come in too. I forgot their first name, but Ironman something.
I just know that for both programs, that would happen where wrestlers would come back.
Yeah.
And help the other generation. That was also something very much instilled in both programs.
I was doing it a little bit when I came back to Florida, and then just there's so much driving and stuff, and you know, and then I was helping Joe actually a little bit at Somerset for a little bit, just a tad.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you have a little something to do maybe with the state championship.
Yeah,
they got to.
The one kid that went, he ended up going to the school in North Carolina, the Camel School.
Campbell College.
The Nick something, I forgot. I wrestled with him a lot.
The Camels, the Campbell Camels. That's how I remember Campbell College.
I wrestled with him a lot, you know.
Sal, growing up, where did you grow up? What sports did you play growing up?
Well, I grew up majority of my life in South Florida,
Fort Lauderdale?
Yeah, Fort Lauderdale. And as far as sports go, you know, I did like a little bit of like regular sports, team sports. Really didn't like it, you know. And then
soccer, baseball, was this?
Yeah, like a little bit of everything. I like sports. I like being active, but I knew right away when I found individual sports, combat sports specifically, that like this is what I'm dedicating my life to. I knew that from a young age, you know. So yeah, like when I got in, I was always training jiu-jitsu from a young kid. My dad had us train jiu-jitsu, but you know, when I was a kid, I wasn't like super into it, you know. And then little by little, the older I got, I realized, you know, how important it was, how much I loved it. So yeah.
Josh?
So I don't remember like jumping into jiu-jitsu. I just remember being in it, you know, just like running around on the mats. It was something that was part of my lifestyle that I didn't think it was like a hobby. It was just like a lifestyle. So when I went to go play football or basketball, that was fun, but jiu-jitsu was like breakfast, you know. It was like part of something, you know.
That was your DNA.
I didn't know that I was doing jiu-jitsu. In my mind, I wanted to play in the NFL. Jiu-jitsu is something I do. I want to play football, you know. I was part of sports team all the time. And then
in Florida?
In Florida, yeah. I was born in Miami, grew up in Miami, and my parents separated, so I would be with my mom. I would go visit my dad, and it was jiu-jitsu all the time. And then I go with my mom, and she had me in flag football or something. And that I was passionate about, being on team sports, because I was a kid. The jiu-jitsu part was like, my dad does it, I have to do it. That was my mentality, you know. And then everything started just becoming bigger, man. It started just involving bigger and bigger, and then I started wrestling, and then I realized my whole life I wanted to get a scholarship for football, and I was like, hey, maybe I could get a scholarship for wrestling. And that's when I jumped in my sophomore year. But other than that, martial arts has been part of my lifestyle, you know? It wasn't even like a hobby then. It's a weird thing to see where it's at now.
When you were at Barron Collier, and then at Gibbons, you only wrestled, you didn't play football. Or did early on at Barron Collier, you were playing football?
So I never played football when I stopped playing sophomore year. I was living in Brazil at the time, my freshman year. I moved during the winter time, so football was over with. So I'm an athlete kid, so I was going to school, jumping on the bus, going home. I was getting like teenage depressed. Like, what the heck's going on? I want to do something with my life. So I was like, yeah, my dad's like, jump into wrestling. I went in there with some gym clothes and some socks. Zero wrestling, started judo tossing everybody. And then Biasucci came up to me and said, hey, I'll get you into college. He told me right there, he's like, you might have to pay a dime or two. But he's like, let me help you. And that's exactly what he did, man. It's kind of funny.
But I'm also thinking, you're at Barron Collier or at Gibbons, that the football coaches are looking at you because of your size
begging me.
and just saying, please,
begging me, man. And all my friends who played football back in the day, I think there's one or two that are involved still, but they all got problems now, man. They all got body issues and stuff. There's a lot of stress on that, you know, on that body, you know. And football is a short-term sport, you know. Wrestling's had, like he said, created me like a man. It's we're men. We're grown men because of this.
For sure, 100%.
It's kind of funny to say we're grown men because of wrestling, but it's a big factor.
Yeah.
It's a big factor. You know?
Health-wise, physically and mentally.
Yeah.
Mentally, yeah, for sure.
They say once you do go through wrestling, everything in life becomes kind of easier. You know.
Wrestling is such a mental game as well.
Yeah, for sure.
It is such a mental game. You have to use your mind. At that, I think that whether meditation that you do outside of wrestling, you could also lend itself to wrestling and the meditation that you do.
Sure.
So I do believe that. I do believe the mental approach to wrestling can help a person grow.
It stresses you in moments in life where you don't need to be stressed. Like, why am I letting this guy crush me? Like, I don't need to be here.
Or why am I in a cafeteria having to cut weight while all my friends are eating stuff in their faces?
You know, so
you know,
it teaches you for the moments that really matter. You know.
Hello, Santiago. We're almost done with the guys. Thank you so much.
Perfect.
Yes.
That's good.
So tell us, Josh, Conan, your dad, here at American Top Team, what he's done. What has he meant to you?
Oh man, you know, he's the big part of it. You know, obviously he's a huge part. I'm as a son to father, I'm super proud. You know, I think that's the first part that I have to start off, that I'm super proud of him. You know, I don't like to see it as like he's my dad and I deserve this and I deserve that and I'm the prince or whatever. The people, they joke around with me, oh, you're the prince and all that. I don't like to play that role. I understand that this sport, there's no fairy dust he throws on me. Just because he did his part doesn't mean that I'm automatically skip the line, you know?
When you go out there and fight, it's you.
Yeah.
It's not him out there.
Yeah. If anything, I feel like I get 3-5 times more of the pressure because of the, hey man, you are Conan Sambo. That doesn't mean anything, you know? And I think going back to the wrestling gave me my own pathway. Because that's where me and my dad kind of split a little bit. I became like the wrestling aspect and he stayed in with the MMA jiu-jitsu aspect, but I feel like that's where I built my own identity with the wrestling part. And my dad sees it too, and he's really good at letting me go. He just kind of helps me guide, and he's good. He's good. Coaches in MMA are the ones that are going to tell you that you're not ready. You shouldn't do it. Because no fighter says no. Everyone's going to say, no, I got it. I'll do it. Yeah, I'll take the fight. I'll fight him. You know, my dad, he's guiding me. He's making me take my time, which is the biggest thing. It's not about the speed. It's about the destination, you know. And having a guy like that is there's not enough money in the world to pay that.
Who are you working with, Josh? Training and sparring with?
So my boxing coach is Gabriel Oliveira. He's the little short tan Brazilian guy. He's worked really well. It doesn't look like much, but man, works really well. I work with Rocco Fabricio Rocco. His nickname's Alan Mo. Yeah, he does the Muay Thai. They come from Noguchi, so they come from like Brazilian traditional Muay Thai, really deep roots in Brazil. And then training partner wise, shout out to my boy. He's fighting today, Austin Vanford. He's
Bellator MMA, Bellator 259 tonight.
Mr. Van Zandt, or however people like to call him. You know, he's fighting today.
I didn't say that, Josh did.
Yeah, he doesn't care. He doesn't. Johnny Evans, another guy, Missouri wrestling.
Just won his fight. A nice, good fight, good fighter.
Yeah.
You know, I rode with Amazov. He's about to fight for the belt, Bellator. Beast, Shoeface, PFL. We just trained for our fights. We were training together. We fought a day apart, me and Shoeface. You know, Omari, I help him with his camp with Tom Breeze, and the list goes on, man. I could sit here and name a bunch of guys, man. But yeah, you just go on American Top Team, type it in, and you'll see everybody I work with.
Sal, talk about Uncle Richie. here at American Top Team as well, and relationship you two have, and then also the same thing about who you're working with, who's training you.
Yeah, I mean, well, obviously, he's my uncle, and yeah, I mean, it's not. I let my hard work speak for itself. You know, I mean, he definitely helps me out a lot. So my dad helps me out a lot. My uncle helps me out a lot. You know, to watch my training, keep me accountable. You know, keep it real with me, which is what is ultimately most important. You know, you don't want smoke blowing up you sometimes. You know, but yeah, I mean, I'm lucky. I'm lucky to have the support system that I do, and a family that understands fighting, and you know, it's like it's kind of like second nature. So, but yeah, as far as coaches and training partners, like Josh said, I could be here all day naming people, you know, but Steve Bruno was one of my main coaches, Mike Brown, Mako, Coach Gabriel, training partners. So many guys. I train with so many high-level guys, man. So lucky. Some of the best in the world. Shout out to Danny Sabatello, one of my training partners. He fights
tonight too.
Makes his Bellator debut, so I train a lot with him and a ton of other high-level guys, which I'm real fortunate to be training with. So.
And then lastly, for you guys, have you ever wrestled each other? I know you're different heights and weights, so.
Yeah, I think
we'll get in there.
Maybe
play around and stuff. Yeah, I know how to play pretty well.
Josh has too many LBs on me, man. You know, I can't go too crazy on him.
No, but yeah, we played around and stuff, and that's the beauty about jiu-jitsu. You know how to give and take and flow and stuff.
Sure.
But
so we're not going to say one has an advantage over the other.
Hey man, good little single. He has a nice little single, man. He has a nice little single. I'll give it to him right there.
Fair enough.
Hey, I just on a side note on the thing with my dad and Richie and stuff. I think we grew up in an environment like this so long that sometimes you look at our record, it doesn't look like much, but we have so much between our ear, I mean, our brain, and his uncle and my dad. It's almost like we're expected to do some things.
Yeah.
You know,
sure. It's lifelong.
I see my dad having conversations with fighters and the personal conversations about things, and I don't find myself in there as much because it's expected. We've been around it so much, so long that, you know, I think his uncle already sees the future opening up for us, you know, because we've been involved with it so long. So it's a blessing to have both those guys.
And Jaco?
And Jaco's in San Francisco, man. He just graduated.
Good for him. Good for him. Well, how does Jaco fit in with this as far as just wrestling and competing against each other?
So Jaco, he's still working out with the wrestling and stuff, but he's actually like my web design guy now. He's involved still, you know. He watches me fights. He's always giving me ideas, and he's making my shirts and stuff like that. Everyone, we try to keep it in house.
He's always a lighthearted guy. He was always like all right, guys, let's just everything's good, guys. Come on.
You should see him. He has dreads now.
Does he?
Yeah, he got dreads and stuff. It's crazy. Yeah, he's a.
And I got to mention the Morris twins, and then we'll wrap this up. We'll talk to Santiago here, a great fighter. The Morris twins are now assistant head coaching at Cardinal Gibbons High School, and just the relationship you have with them and some of the history too. So Josh.
So the Morris twins, we actually made our history a little longer because I went to NC State my freshman year of college, and they ended up going there. So we've got a lot of different ideas, and we've known a lot of people in common and stuff like that. Yeah, and before COVID, I was supposed to go to Gibbons because I needed to just work on my wrestling for myself. Sometimes you just got to get in the wrestling room and just work with just teenage wrestlers. You'd be surprised how much they sharpen up your wrestling tools, you know. But then the pandemic happened, all that stuff, and I couldn't go in there. But I'm gonna try to work my way back in there and stuff. Shout out to the Jamal and Jamel. And you wrestle,
man. I have nothing bad to say about Jamal and Jamel, man. They're awesome. They definitely. We wrestled a ton when we were in high school. I wrestled Jamal when I was in high school. We wrestled like a handful of times, but.
All right, who got the upper hand here? Are we going to say, or are we keeping that in the history books? Let someone else tell the story.
I mean, you can look at it, you know.
That means he got. If he says you can look at it, that means he got.
Yeah, I mean you can go on check it out, you know. But yeah, no, they're awesome. He definitely pushed me to. When I knew it was we wrestled each other in the Broward County Finals every year throughout all of high school. So it was definitely something where like every year he made me better, and I'm sure I made him better. So, yeah, for sure.
Now, the real question is, which brother was better?
Yeah, that's the question. I can't answer that.
No, that good question,
If
Josh.
they watch this, they're gonna be like, they're gonna look at you. They're probably gonna start wrestling in the
Yeah.
living room.
Yeah, they will. Quiet but competitive.
Yeah.
That's the Morris twins. Guys, thank you both so much. This has been awesome. I
For
hope we
sure.
can do this again because I have more
sure.
questions. I'd love to ask you guys both. And all the best in the future.
Sounds good.
Hey man, it was good talking to you, and it was great seeing you from back then. Now still
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
your thing,
funny.
right?
Yeah.
From the high school days. That's
Awesome.
I watched both of them wrestle in their high school
Really?
days.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Awesome. See you guys.
Sí.